Hi there. We want to thank you for joining us this evening. The goal of this live cast is to introduce you to entrepreneurs or ourselves that make a difference in your community. We want this to be fun, informative discussion on a variety of topics to stimulate your mind with. And as many of you know, my co-host is Stephanie Jackson. She's a holistic health and lifestyle coach, and she has the freedom to live.ca. And myself, I'm a life and financial coach from Alaro Solutions, as well as DarleneAValentine.com. And we're here tonight to discuss coaching. I wanted to say let's see, here we go. Coaching is unlocking a person's potential to maximize their own performance. It is helping them to learn rather than teaching them. John Whitmore in Coaching for Performance. And I think the evolution of these live casts have come down to coaching. And it comes to the question of, what is a coach? Who is a coach? Why is coaching important? And I found, and Stephanie and I have been talking, and the more we talk and the more we coach each other on different things, it's been such an evolution. And every time we have our meetings, it's like, we should be recording this. Because we've come across so many interesting things in our discussions. So welcome, Stephanie. That's kind of my kickoff, and we can kind of take it from there.
Thanks, Darlene.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of answer that question, what is coaching? And I don't know, this is just kind of my own take on it in my own, what I do every day. But because I've come into coaching as a midlife career. It's not something that I just, studied in school and said, okay, what did you want to be when you were young? It wasn't like, oh, I want to be a coach. It's something that I have fallen into over a course of my whole life. So coaching for me, it's a combination of mentorship, guidance, healing, and just sitting in the dark with people. And what I mean by sitting in the dark with people, it's really just letting people discover their own breakthroughs, their own transformations. And I think this kind of comes down to a combination of my previous career in life. I was a teacher, and coaching isn't teaching at all. However, I was more in the adult education, ESL, and French as a second language. So there are definitely some parallels. But I don't show up as that expert in your life.
No.
And it's just about kind of taking there's theory, there's knowledge that I share and educate, but at the same time, there's a big take a step back and just let people discover and listen.
And it reminds me of that ask versus tell. I had a great coach, person I worked with for many years, and she was an amazing teacher, amazing trainer, and she always drilled into everyone, ask versus tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has a big part in play with coaching, because you're asking, you're being that guide. You're not telling anyone to do anything. You're asking, and you're kind of doing that guidance where needed. And I think it's important for people to know. And the evolution of coaching, what brought me to this point was the negative connotation with coaches. I've had so many people say, oh, coaching. Well, what's coaching? Or the negative, oh, you're a coach. just another coach. And it made me step back and really think, what is a coach? What quantifies or qualifies someone to be a coach? Especially because it's not a regulated career, so to speak. And there's a lot of people that jump on that coaching bandwagon. Oh, I'm a coach, but not really have the background for it. Mm-hmm. And that makes it hard for people that are truly good coaches in life to what would you say, qualify them as a coach. Like this was an evolution for me as well. But I did have the background. I did have the psychology background. I worked with people for 16, 17 years. And I worked with a lot of schizophrenic, a lot of psychotic people. And then I found with all that counseling, and I did vocational counseling as well as in-home counseling. I've done a lot of that counseling. Then I moved into the corporate realm. And I developed people and I coached people and I worked with people. And I saw so many of the people I worked with become better, bigger, further management and site directors. And I saw the evolution of building them up to become successful for themselves. And I think the evolution of, I keep saying evolution, but I think it does evolve of 34 years of being in employment in different various ways and developing people and growing people. It qualifies me to be a coach, and truly my heart, because that's what I've done all my life. So now it was deciding what route to go in coaching.
Right. Yeah. Because I think that's what I see a lot. And it probably feeds into the misconception of, oh, just another coach. Because I think there is that phenomena out there. It's a very copy and paste thing where you can just on the surface, I always talk a lot about the facade.
Mm-hmm.
And on the surface, you can look at different people and say, oh, they're a coach, and you can look into their lifestyle and their posts and their messaging and their whole image that they're projecting out there into the world and say, oh, I want that too for me and my life. And we can just kind of say, oh, I'm a coach now. Because as you said, there's not really a lot of regulation in this industry. You can be certified and qualified, but at the same time, like any business, you can market yourself any way you want. Like, oh, I offer the best, whatever, like it's all in the messaging.
Yeah.
But where I'm going with this is this whole copy and paste phenomena is that as a coach, you've had this whole life journey. You've seen all these different stories. You've counseled. It's the same with me in my industry where I've counseled countless people.
Yeah.
Whether it's the students coming to this country and trying to fit in, trying to find work, trying to find life purpose, trying to just maintain a healthy lifestyle within, just coming here is a huge obstacle for a lot of people. But it was also working with the teaching staff and helping them and managing their life. So it was like you see all these different stories and all these different patterns, and then you start to kind of create these formulas.
Yeah.
And this is what I call your unique voice in the coaching field. Yeah. And if we don't have our own unique voice, then we play into that misconception of, oh yeah, just another coach. But when you know your own power and your own unique voice, then you start to get clearer and clearer and clearer on who you're meant to help, who you're meant to guide, who you're meant to mentor and heal. And sit in the dark and have those breakthroughs with.
I love it. So question for you then, Stephanie, is what made you evolve your coaching to the health realm, to the holistic realm?
Right. So, yeah, I'm not a, like, I don't have a specific field in health coaching, but what I do is I'm a health and life coach because in my practice, first and foremost, through my background, I've become, a general life coach. But what I see in my practice and my clients that come to me is that I always look at the crisis moment, the crisis point. And crisis in Greek means turning point or decision point in life. So sometimes we reach this point, whether it's in our business, our career, our health, or our relationships. And those are kind of my three main, the big ones.
Yeah.
We hit that wall. We hit that crisis point. And I went through that in my own life, where those three things specifically were relevant to me in my healing journey and my path. And the way I transformed that pain and the suffering was through health, fitness, and wellness. So that's why I specifically have gone down the specialty of health and wellness specifically. But I do guide people on a life basis, helping people, guiding people on purpose, career, business. But there's a real strong link back to managing your own personal well-being and your own health, because at the end of the day, that's all we have. When we hit a wall in other areas, we can get back. But when we hit that wall in our health, if that wall is being diagnosed with a serious condition, it's a lot harder to turn that around.
For sure. Absolutely. And I think that's where you made it very apparent for me is like health. If you don't have, and for the health crisis I've been through a few times in my life, if you don't have your health, you don't have a lot going for you. Because if you don't have your health, how are you going to make your money to gain your wealth?
Right. Yeah.
Like your health is almost like the core.
It is.
Of everything.
It really is.
And I think everyone is a life coach. When you hear coach, everyone has a life coach, is a life coach, but it specializes in which areas. And I think I wanted to really make a point as well tonight is the impact that a coach has on your life. So Stephanie, tell me, even remaining anonymous of that, what a difference you've made in someone's life.
Oh, well, I think again, it's just having that outside person, like how you mentioned before. We were talking a little bit earlier today on that outside person, where it's not your friends, it's not your family, it's not someone like you're going out drinking with and having a good partying time. It's that, I think that's really the key here, is that it's that outside person where there's no judgment. Like when you show up and you have absolutely no judgment and you just listen, that right there sometimes is enough impact right there, just to sit there and hold the space and allow people just to talk and be that listening ear for people.
And I know what I have found with just my coaching and my reverse coaching. Stephanie and I reverse coach each other all the time. We have a weekly call, and that's specifically just reverse coaching. And it is amazing the impact that coaching has with even for my evolution of my career. It's like, okay, I'm a financial coach, and I specialized with finances because I was comfortable there. I learned a really great way of getting out of debt 100% and how to save, etc. And I had in account management, touched on it in the corporate world of finances. But I have gone on the life coaching path as well. And that's a lot because of my background. But it was trying to find a niche market. And Stephanie and I have talked, and I found I've kind of coached myself. And that's what coaching is. I've kind of guided, whereas Stephanie's there coaching me, but you tell yourself you're trying kind of guided. When I start looking at all the words we write down, or Stephanie writes down as we talk, and then you look back on those words, what are coming out so strong? Well, let's say leadership, growth, development, and you see these words over and over and over again. It's like yourself, you truly know within yourself where you should go. It's having that person draw that out of you. And it's drawing out that then I step back and think, okay, because I'm fairly new this year on the coaching realm, it's like, oh, okay, I could go this route. But then tonight we just had a conversation before this broadcast, and it's like, you know what? This is what I'm good at. I've done for the last 17 years of coaching people in a corporate realm, of holding people accountable, of being able to gear people and guide them and show them different ways in a corporate environment. And I get excited and it drives me. I get passionate thinking, okay, well, we could do this and we can do that. And just our discussion kind of puts me step back, and it's like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then a reward for me with financial coaching is having clients and guiding that client through their goal. And every week we're on a call, and it's like, okay, how you doing? How's it going? And they're telling me, and they're like, well, I really should have written this down. I didn't, but no. And I don't have to say a word. I am just sitting there and listening. And it's like, oh, I know, Dar. And it's like, I haven't said anything. But it was that guy. And then the end point of them achieving that goal, there is nothing better in my life than when I can work with someone and see them achieve that end point, that goal that they've set out 6 months prior to reach it. It's like, not only are they ecstatic that they've done it, because the majority of time they do it on their own with that guidance, just with that little guidance, because as a good coach, you draw it out of them. You draw that out, and then that's the satisfaction I get, is seeing them achieve that goal. And then seeing them come back or refer other people. It's like, oh my gosh, you got to talk to this girl. You got to do this. If you really want to get that, you've got to go there. And I'm sure this exact same for you, Stephanie, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I see, I think it's seeing the shift in people's habits, in people's patterns. That is also like, it's that huge impact that you have influenced in their life. I mean, I know this is just an example from speaking with you on our coaching calls. And you've brought into my awareness, the financial aspect of putting that dollar value onto everything. And I've shared this a few different times because, again, it's like anything, money and finances, it's a relationship and building that relationship. And Yeah, for me specifically, like I'll come to you and I'll say, okay, I have this idea of this program and here's the price point and here's what I'm offering. But you always take that step back to say, like, to really break down, to map out, because I love mapping out, but just to map out for me the whole financial structure of what that looks like, the dollar value and the time value.
Yeah.
And then when, in what point of time is that return on investment? So, I mean, just that alone in my day-to-day life, you've impacted some of those habits and some of those behaviors.
That's great. I know. Sometimes I'm sure you have nightmares.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I've told Stephanie many, many times is I always keep a dollar value in my head.
Yeah.
So if I go into a meeting or if the minute I step out my door, it costs me $150 an hour. And that is that number in my head that I measure my ROI on. Am I going to get that return on investment? So if I'm going for this coffee appointment and meeting this person, is that going to return that money to me? And it's not saying that I'm not going to just meet people for coffee,
Right.
but I have to be strategic because this is my life. This is my business. This is what pays my bills. So I have to be cognizant of what value I'm always bringing with me.
Mm-hmm.
And measuring it out there because it's important if we're going to succeed financially in life, and especially being an entrepreneur, it's even harder because you're working hard to make sure everything's up there. Everything's on a level. You're doing this and you're doing that, but not getting caught up in all those other tasks because you have to measure time versus money.
Yeah.
And that's the key correlation.
I mean, that alone, we could probably have a whole other session on time management and just
Absolutely
choosing what we're doing in different activities as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Time versus money, and what is the value of that?
And then you know what? We'll even add it to our list.
Right.
Our list of many, many talks.
Yeah.
Because it's so funny because Stephanie and I were talking and we felt it important to start getting into conversations for coaching, to have these discussions for people, and then eventually have the open forum. Like as we're gaining an audience and gaining momentum, it's almost like for some of you older folks out there, it's like almost like the Sunday night sesh show with Sue Johansson, I believe it is. And I used to love that. Sunday night, you could call in with any question you had to Sue, and you'd be able to hear her advice, her thoughts, even tools you could use, et cetera, et cetera. And it was like, wow, what an open forum. And she was such an educator. And I said to Stephanie, why don't we do that with coaching? Because a lot of times people don't understand the value of a coach and the impact having a coach, using a coach for anything you want to achieve that it has on you.
Yeah.
So once we gain momentum, I want to be able to have people send us questions as we're live broadcasting so that between Stephanie and I, we could start going with your questions and saying, hey, you know what? This is how I would work with you, or this is what I would suggest, or ask you this question, because I'm sure we have 100 questions between the two of us for coaching.
Yeah, I mean, we could just pull from our week, just from our emails, just different questions that we get from different channels or social media platforms, and just pick like 2 or 3 questions, or maybe in 30 minutes, we'd probably only have time for 1 or 2 questions, and just deal with those questions.
Yeah.
Like, okay, and it's anonymous. Just send in your questions, direct message us on our social media, and we'll deal with those questions on our coaching call every Sunday.
I think that's a great idea. I think that, and you know what? Maybe I'll even do, you know me. I think what I'll put out there on MailChimp is I'll send it to my mailing list. I'll put out an ad on our Facebook pages, on my personal page, as well as Evergreen, as well as all of our other pages that we manage and group. And I'll put something together just to encourage people to ask us questions. So then we can kind of get a list of questions going. But what's great is we can pull in some expert coaches in different areas as well.
For sure. Definitely.
Like, I think that, that sounds like so much fun. You know me, it's like just the littlest things that excite me. But I think that would be really, it would help people out there. Let's say all of you viewers on Facebook, it would help just kind of give you clarification on coaching and answer some of your questions.
Yeah, so let's set that up. We'll set that up for next Sunday. We have our regular coaching call every Sunday night. Send in your questions via social media, direct message, email, get in touch with us. You can get in touch with me at thefreedomtolive.ca or Stephanie Ann Jackson. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, or Darlene.
Yeah, and I'll have all of our contact information at the bottom of this live recording. So, and as well, I'll add it all into my MailChimp promotion.
Sounds good.
And I laugh because Stephanie's like, oh, you can do that.
You can Stephanie's the mailing list lady.
I love it. So we're going to wrap up for tonight. I think this was a good forum to just kind of put it out there, what a coach is, kind of what we're doing as coaches, and now open it up to the rest of the summer on Sunday nights on answering different questions that people have.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you everyone for watching. It's greatly appreciated, and we'll see you next Sunday. Have a wonderful week.
See you next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.